Good evening. Welcome to the Cooper Surgical Fertility Solutions Symposium. My name is Karen Schnaufer. I'm a consultant embryologist at KSIVF, and I will be moderating the proceedings this evening. Today, our focus turns to why an electronic witnessing system is valued as an essential team player by both clinics and patients. And we are very lucky to have presentations by Dr. Albert Obradors, who will be looking at this from a lab manager's perspective, while Dr. Stephen Troop, who will be introducing a patient's view. If you would like to ask any questions, we do have a Q&A session, and I ask that you give your questions over to the speakers using the Q&A box, which you should see on your screen. Please note that as a company, Cooper Surgical recommend that you always follow the instructions for use when using their products, whereas the speakers this evening will be expressing their own views. Next slide. So as I've already mentioned, we are joined today by Dr. Albert Obradors. Albert has a PhD in biology from Yale and Barcelona universities. Formerly, he was the director of the Eugin Group laboratories worldwide, with more than 40 biologists under his supervision and more than 15,000 patients per year. He is now the owner of his own IVF clinic, which he opened 4 years ago. He's also the author of more than 15 scientific articles on IVF and PGT. Stephen Troop has nearly 35 years experience in the field and a PhD in male infertility. Steve has risen through the ranks to have been the scientific director of the Liverpool Women's Hospital's Hewitt Fertility Centres, and more recently, the opening of the EV centres in the UK. As well as his day-to-day operational and research responsibilities in both government-funded and private sectors, Steve has often provided advice to regulators, educators, the commercial sector, and colleagues around the world. Of particular relevance to today's symposium, Steve was instrumental in helping the Human Fertilisation and Embryology Authority permit the use of electronic witnessing in the UK. Steve is particularly proud to have been both the chair and the president of the Association of Clinical Embryologists and a founder member of the newly formed Association of Reproductive and Clinical Scientists. Steve now works as an independent consultant at Consultant Reproduction Scientists based in the UK. So now over to you, Albert.
Okay, so thank you, Karen, for your presentation. It's an honor to me to be in this EV Congress. Okay, it's an honor. Okay, so I will speak this afternoon about the IVF witness as a lab manager. Okay, and trying to see and to answer this question: is it a friend for the biologists or it's a foe? Okay, I have to start saying that I am an invited speaker for Cooper Surgical. But that I use IVF witness for more than 10 years now, and that when I choose to create my own clinic, I decide to install it to myself, to my clinic, and pay it by myself. So even if I'm an invited speaker, I am very happy of using it every day. So that's why we are here, no? To have this healthy baby at our patient's home, very close. Okay, to get to that, you know that we need to have blastocyst, and that this blastocyst needs to have a nice-looking sperm, nice-looking eggs, and to put it in a nice-looking endometrium. And moreover, you know, and I'm sure the Congress will be speaking about that, there's a lot of genetics behind that, you know, time lapse also, morphogenetics, so on. No? But well, so this is all clear to our scientifics, but we will have to remember that also we need to use the right samples, because if we create this nice baby, this nice baby was not pretended to be here, was not planned to be here, then we have a big problem in the clinic. So we can do all the research, we can do all the high technical things, but if we make a single mistake, we are all dead. Okay, why? Because we human, we make mistakes. That's clear. Nobody will argue that. Huh? And of course, we will make a lot of mistakes during our life. But also in the IVF lab, yes, also in the IVF lab, because we are not perfect machines and the mistakes are there. So what we try to think as lab managers, as directors of the center, is how to avoid that at maximum. No? So I hope not, but we have to put tools to avoid that. Only hoping is not enough. Okay. And in fact, as some of the audience may be aware, mistakes have been done and mistakes have been published and well recognized worldwide. No, these are quite old information. No, but very recently, in fact, 1 week ago, I saw a new in my cell phone in the morning by Google News. This couple from California saying that this woman, Daphne, gave birth a baby that was not her baby. And in fact, another couple also from California give birth to her baby. And of course, that they were not happy because of course, finally the baby was switched and everybody was having his baby, but now they are in the law process against the clinic, which the name of the clinic was obviously well known. And now that was appearing on BBC and CNN and even in my cell phone in Figueras. So that's a drama, because not only for this couple, of course, it's a drama, but also for the clinic, because now they have a big problem, not only with the law and the insurance and the money you have to pay to these two couples, but also for the new patients to come, how to explain that to them that this will be not happening once again. So this is a real problem that you have to face, or not. We can stay on a cloud and looking this problem from far away, thinking that this is not going with us, and in fact this is not a issue for us. Or we have to pray and saying, please God, please all the stars of the sky, don't let this mistake happen to my clinic. Or we can look to somebody else, to another part, and even though the problem is close, even though that the danger is there, trying to jump at the very last moment, try to avoid that. But one day or the other, the mistake will come, the error will arrive, and then clearly it's too late. As this clinic of California, it's too late, because then you have to react. You have to react to your couple, explain it how that was possible to be done. You have to react with insurance. You have to react with new patients that will contact you, if some contact you, because if you have to make an IVF treatment, I perhaps will not call the clinic that I just saw in the news that they have a mistake. So this is lots of energy and lots of money that perhaps the clinic will not survive from that. So it's much more intelligent and much more cheap and much more, I think, fair to go in a proactive way and try to make this mistake not to appear, rather than react when it is there, which is too late. So what, in fact, does the guidelines say about that? ESRE, if we look to the guidelines of 208, saying that the mismatch should be prevented and that the double witnessing, so two people looking at the same time, the same process, should be performed for egg and sperm extraction, for IVF, ICSI, and also for embryo freezing, thawing, and transfer. But this is only a recommendation. So ESRE don't ask us to do so, only recommends us to do so. In contrast, if we see the UK law, yes, it is mandatory, okay? The HFEA says clearly that double or electronic witnessing, it's mandatory for all these steps, which in fact are all the steps in the IVF laboratory: egg collection, ICSI, freezing, insemination, warming, all the steps that you can think on should be and has to be and must be controlled in UK. In fact, that makes, I guess, the research instrument company, which created then the IVF witness, which is a British system. So there in UK, it's very well known and very well installed. So it's mandatory by law. How it works, I guess that everybody in the room may be aware of that, but easily each sample has a tag, okay, which you can attach to that. And in the working areas in the laboratory, but also in the offices, there are like this antenna that detects information of this tag, and this goes to a database that tells us if the samples can go together or not. There are different tags that you can attach to your dishes, okay? Rectangular, square, circular, and very small, also for the time-lapse dishes. Usually, in fact, in my clinic, we only get these ones, not in order to not get a lot of different ones. We get all these for all ones, no? And also for the frozen straws, this is a barcode that you can put on the straw. These are the tags. And the readers are integrated in the working area, and which is something very relevant to me, because this is automatic. The biologists don't need to do anything. They don't need to scan a card, or they don't need to read. They don't have to think on that. I mean, they only have to work, and the work area itself will recognize the sample, and in a small tablet that you will have to put inside, you will see what's going on and the information of the couple that you have, and if you can mix different patients or not. This is automatic. This is not a patient or operator dependent. So which is very, very important, because if I have to depend on the operator, and if the operator forgets to use it one time, and this time it's a mistake, then everything goes down. Here I choose one example, which is quite old, but I like to put it anyway, because I like to remember these times. And here we see patient Larissa, okay, and in the screen you see I can see all the steps that has been done to this patient in particular, and at what time and by whom. So I know exactly all the process that has been done with this couple. No, if I put next to Larissa his husband, Mr. Haswell, no problem. But if I put somebody else, okay, then automatically there will be a mismatch. Okay, so the skin will be in red. Okay, there will be a stop, and there will be alarm saying us that this is not working good, and the alarm will be turning like this. So if in the laboratory I see a red screen and a stop message and this alarm, of course, this is quite clear to me that this is not good. Okay, so, and this is very fast. It's immediately. So the biologist will know, oops, I made a mistake. Thanks God, somebody told me that this is not okay. And then I can react. I cannot make this mistake to go further. Okay. This is how it works, the system, no? But how did we adapt that in our routine work? Okay. First of all, the lab manager, together with the rest of the team, if required, we need to create the workflow. Okay, this is the example of our workflow. Okay, and then it seems very complicated, but in fact, it's 2 hours of work. Okay, just to think all the steps you will have to do for all the processes. Okay, and this is important because it has to be very easy to understand for your team. Once you do that, then people from the company have to come and install the system, which will be 1 day usually, and then you can start to work. In fact, the process starts with these 2 cards. Okay, each patient has a card of this. This is for female, and this is for male patients. Okay, and what I give to them the first time that they come to the clinic is this card. Okay, and I link the information to them. Okay, and they need that to go to the operation room to give the eggs, to return on the operation room for the transfer day, and this to give the sperm sample. Okay, so this is very crucial, and they have to keep them by themselves. You can also print the name on the card, but I prefer not to do so. Only putting this very neutral card with no name from the information of the patient, but you can do whatever you want. And then, well, this is an example, okay, of the chip, okay, the tag with the card and my name. Okay, this is for a demonstration. Okay, a woman, the patient goes in the block room, operation room with the cards, and then it puts it in a reader which is in the wall. Okay, and in the reader, if I make a zoom in, they will see her name, the date of birth. This is my wife, Lydia, and also this screen is connected to the laboratory. So this is the real image of the working area for the biologists. The laboratory, on the other side of the wall, okay, they see what happens there, and they can link this card to the dish, okay, and they can make the workflow as I just showed you. And in one moment in particular, for example, the system will detect that I have the sample of Albert, the eggs from Lydia, and then I have a new dish, so I can go further making eggs. Okay, and then I create the embryos. Then I freeze the embryos or not, or I transfer them fresh, depending your routine, okay? And at the same day that the Lydia will come to get her blastocyst, okay, she will put the card once again to verify that the embryo that we will transfer is right her embryo. And that's what was produced using the sperm of Albert and her eggs, okay? So the patient will participate in the process, and which is, I think, is very, very important. But this is to me clear, no? But sometimes somebody will say, Albert, that's a lot of work. You have to create this workflow. You have to put tags on the dishes, a lot of work. Or somebody will say, Albert, they try to control me. They want to put a well in my neck to throw me in the river. I don't agree on that. That's not the purpose of the system. The purpose is just the contrary. It's to make you feel relaxed, less stress for the mistakes. You have to focus yourself in making it properly, to treat your samples in a better way, but not to think on that the mistake is there. Of course, you have to think on that, but you have a system that helps you to avoid that. So many people will say, Albert, in our clinic, we do already double witnessing. Why would we need electronic witnessing? Well, when I was in Eugene, in Barcelona, on my last work, okay, I've lab director there, we used to do triple witnessing. So all the steps were controlled by 2 people or 3. Before ICSI, 3 people were looking at that, and then we installed the ABF witness. So in 3 or 4 witnessing. And these are the data after 3 years using ABF witnessing at my previous work in Eugene of 20,000 cycles, okay? We did like 1 carton of million of automatic millions, quarter of million of automatic control, sorry, and plus 2 or 3 people looking at the same time. And we detect 1,200 mismatches. I looked to all of them, okay, and most of them were not real mismatches. They were data errors, okay, because a woman introduced it as a man, or the reverse, or close up, because the system is very, very, very sensitive. So if you have a sample close to the reader, they mean that they may detect it. So it's a mistake, but it's not a real mistake, because you are sure that the sample is not together, no? Or also mistakes on the workflow. But there were 2 real mistakes. So in 2 cases, 2 people were saying that the samples were okay, but then at the witness, the sample were not okay. So these mistakes were detected and of course avoided. So that means a rate of mistake of 1 every 10,000 cycles, which is a lot, but it's still a big, big problem. And that's logical. Why? Because everybody, each person may have a rate of mistake. 2 people have more less rate of mistake, but still the mistake is there. So human control is not sufficient. We cannot be relaxed with that, because one day or the other, that both people will make the mistake in the same moment. So for me, that's clear, and this data was showing that. So yes, ABF witness, to me, it's good to avoid this human mistake, but also they helps in other things. They helps to standardize the workflow. Each clinic has their own protocol, and sometimes it's difficult to remember everything. So as the system guides you through all the process, you avoid skipping steps. It's easy to learn, and it's very good for new members of the team. In fact, the system will follow you in the next step, as long as you before the lab manager create it very well. 2, you can introduce data on in the tablets, so you can tell the witness to ask you questions after pickup. They can ask you how many eggs did you recover, or after denudation, how many mature after fertilization. So system can ask you things, and this data can go directly to the clinic database. Both databases can have to be linked, but this is something that you can do. The ET guys can do so. And this, of course, make save you time, mistakes, and money. Because putting data in the system, of course, that's time requiring, and it's money for people. And 3, you can also do research. In Eugene, we published 2 articles analyzing all the timings. As the time is recorded automatically, I exactly know which difference of time is between pickup and ICSI, pickup and freezing, pickup and denudation, and see the effects on that. So one article from Pablo, another one from Aida Pujol, and looking at lots of data. You see 10,000 cycles automatically, knowing that the effect of the timing on each process. It is automatic data, easy to get. And also, you can control the team and yourself. This is something that I want to show you, which is quite funny. This is data that is very easy to get from the witness. Okay, for example, I see I have a small clinic, so it's we are 3, 4 only in the team. So how many of the process is done by Albert, by Maria, by Julia, or by Yvette? These ones are the new ones in the team. So, and also which areas are more used, to know if for any reason some area is more used than the other, and the different processes that have been done. This is in general. And also I can look in general how much time we dedicate on pickup or donation. And this is for each operator. I can look Alberto Rodos, how it takes to make a ICSI and compare with the general group, no? And how many time of his time puts in one thing or the other. So this is good to try to understand things and try to optimize results. If I see that the biologist it's faster and the results are lower, perhaps I'm not interested. So this is also to control the results and trying to improve them. And something that is going on, and it's appearing now, it's true to make a control of PGD. Now, in the new feature of ABF Witness, we can tag each freezing straw carrier, okay, and put the result of PGD in order that I do a transfer to get the right straw and not to transfer the embryo with a PGD not good, I would say. So trying to finish on my time, okay. It's a witness, a friend, or a fool. For me, it's clear. It's a friend. It's a best friend, okay. Best friend for the biologists, best friend for the patients, and I think it's mandatory to have it. So, but also you have to put a tag on everything, but it's not a big deal. So thanks for being here. It's a pleasure to be here once again. Thank you.
Yeah, so I'll start by thanking the organisers and Cooper Surgical for the very kind invitation to take part in this interesting session, and in the IVI RMA conference. And also thank you, Albert, for running through how the RI witness system works. And I have to say that I agree entirely with everything that you've said in your presentation. So I've been given a really difficult task here, and I've been asked to try to give the patient's perspective of the witness system. This slide that's on the screen now is a slide that I've used in previous talks when I've been discussing the RI witness system and electronic witnessing generally, and you can see some of the what I've called the obvious benefits there. But it's really this last one on the list that we're interested in this afternoon, or that I've been asked to address. And I'd like to draw your attention firstly to this paper that was published 5 or 6 years ago from Laura Rienzi's group, where they surveyed over 400 patients. I think there were sort of 200 or so female patients and their partners. And they basically sought their views on the use of electronic witnessing. And it's well worth a read. It's a really interesting paper, I think, because the overwhelming conclusion is that patients were hugely reassured by having this electronic witnessing system in place, particularly as halfway through the survey, there was actually a mix-up in the laboratory, and patients were even further reassured. So, as I say, I've been asked to give the patient's view, but I'm not a patient. I never have been a patient. And I thought perhaps the best way to do this then might be to see if we can talk to some patients about this. And I'm delighted to introduce to you Amy and Mark, who are friends of mine who have recently been through an IVF treatment cycle. And they very kindly agreed to talk to me about witnessing and about mix-ups and things like that. And they also very kindly agreed to have the interview videoed. So I'd like to now show you this video, and I do hope that you enjoy it. I'm delighted to introduce Mark and Amy, and I must start by thanking them hugely for their time. As a couple, who they'll tell you in a minute, have recently experienced IVF treatment, and just to thank them for giving up the time to give what I hope will be their view as a couple who've been through this recently, to give their view about mix-ups and witnessing and things like that. I must also say that I have stressed to you guys already when we were chatting before that our discussions are largely hypothetical, and that anything that we touch on today, you're not to worry that something might have gone wrong in your treatment. So I wonder, maybe I could start, Amy, with you, and you could just tell us briefly what your fertility journey has been like so far.
Okay, so it's been quite long. I think we started treatment about 4 years ago, through an NHS hospital, and then we found out that we needed ICSI and we needed to fund that. So we kind of sat in the system for quite a while, tried various treatments knowing that they probably wouldn't be effective, whilst we gathered funds to move on to funding our own treatment. And we finally did that this year. We chose to move over to a private organisation just because we liked the feel for it when we looked around. Yeah. And actually, once we were there, things happened really quickly. So it's actually been 2 months between the consultation and positive pregnancy tests. Yeah. So it's been amazing, really, after the stressful few years that have led up to it.
So you had a full ICSI cycle. Yeah. Egg collections, embryo transfers, sperm sample production, all that sort of thing. And now you're pregnant. Yeah. Excellent. Well, congratulations. That's the whole point, I guess. Okay, so just moving more towards what we're here to discuss. We were chatting before about this awful case that's come to light this morning in California, where 2 couples have seemingly given birth to children that are not genetically theirs. So maybe I can just ask you, Mark, how did you feel when you saw that story? How did it make you feel?
I was quite shocked, actually. I do remember the case 20 odd years ago, the original case that happened here, and obviously you expect sort of houses to be put in order, in that time. So I was never concerned. It wasn't something I really thought about this time with us. And from the actual treatment that we received at the clinic, I was confident that everything was done as it should be. Thorough checks were made, and everything would be fine. Obviously, I wasn't aware of this case until today, so it's come as quite a shock. I think it probably has to Amy as well, that it actually can still happen in 20 odd years after the original case. So it is concerning, but from our experience, I'm not concerned about I think, it wasn't something that I thought would happen to us.
So you have confidence in the clinic?
Definitely.
And so you should.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
How about you? You saw this on the news this morning?
Yeah, I literally just heard it on the news. I was surprised as well. And again, like Mark said, it's not something I really thought about. I wasn't even aware of the case 20 years ago. I think, I don't know, I just trusted in the system, really.
So is it fair to say then that as a couple that have been through this, you assume that we will get this right in the clinics?
Yeah.
You put your entire faith and trust in the clinic to get it right.
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't know whether that depends on which clinic you choose, because I mean we chose because we got a good vibe, and it felt very personal and professional.
Yeah.
So I don't know whether, had we gone somewhere else, for example, we might have felt more uncertain.
Right.
But it certainly didn't cross my mind. There's a couple of occasions where I thought about it, but not to any, almost like, oh, that's a silly thought to have, because these are professionals. And
I think the fact that we're paying privately for it as well.
Okay.
I think if you're paying lots of money, you kind of expect first class service, and obviously.
Okay. Would you not expect that in the health service as well?
I would. I think it should. It's obviously something that should be in place, but I know there's a lot of pressure on staff in the NHS, and they're under pressure. So I probably, I don't like to say it, but probably would be more confident doing it privately.
Okay. So when we were talking prior to your egg collection, you said you wondered how things were identified as yours going forward. What do you think we do? What would you expect us to do?
Do you know, I honestly haven't thought about it, but
Proper labelling of vials and tubes, definitely.
yeah, I think, like, because I remember thinking when they were about to take the eggs, I just had the thought, I wonder where they're going to put these, how they're going to know that these are mine, because they're so minuscule, aren't they?
Yes.
How can they possibly have loads of women's eggs and not get them mixed up? But I almost had the thought and then dismissed it, really.
Yeah.
Because I thought, well, obviously they've been doing this for years, they've got professional systems. I think, yeah, like Mark said, I probably thought they must have a vial with your name and like similar to your NHS number on it or something.
Right. Okay. So when you had your egg collection, and the same for you, Mark, when you produced a semen sample, what checks were done, and were you confident that those checks were adequate? I'm not criticising the clinic here,
No,
because I know what the answer to the question is, but
all I recall with the egg collection is a nurse came in and asked me my name and date of birth, and then another practitioner came in and asked me my name and date of birth.
So double checked.
I don't recall anything else on the egg collection, but I do on the transfer. So when they did the transfer, I remember them saying they read a number. One of them read a number, and then another person read a number.
Right. Okay.
So I thought, oh, they must be obviously checking this is my embryo.
Okay. So there's a system of identification in the background. How about you with your
Semen
side of
analysis.
things?
I was the actual, obviously the sample goes straight into the vial, so I had to read and check that the vial was the correct vial for me.
Yeah.
My name's correct, and I had a form to sign as well, I think, with details on that. So it was all the form and the vial itself were checked. My sample obviously was transferred straight into the vial, and I then put it into an incubator, not incubator, into I can't think of the word it is, but
A box.
yeah, a box basically with the locks, and it was collected straight away from the other side. I heard them actually take it.
Yeah.
So I assume that would be sort of very limiting the chance of a mistake, and the fact that it was done.
So you were confident that that so-called chain of custody was robust?
Yes.
But that same day, the day that we did the egg collection and the semen, what do you call it?
Sample
Yeah.
production.
I did say to Mark, because we only saw one other couple on the ward, and they're an Asian couple, and I just said, oh, imagine if you gave birth to an Asian baby. But I sort of said it in a jokey way.
Right.
Because in my head, I was thinking, I didn't know that actually that's what Mark had to do. I was thinking, how do they not get the sperm mixed up?
Yeah.
So it did cross my mind. But again, it dismissed it, because I think you do go back to that, well, you have trust in the
That's
system
what
and
it
the
boils
people.
down to, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I suppose it's a clinic like the one where you've had your treatment, they're probably seeing through that lab, and I'm guessing now it's a medium-sized clinic, so they might be seeing 40, 50 patients a week going through the clinic, so maybe 10 a day. So there's quite a high throughput.
Yeah.
How does that make you feel?
I suppose it is a bit concerning, because you're there one after another as well, aren't you?
Yeah.
So you've only got that short time slot, and if they're busy and and you need to get people through, then you've got more chance for error.
Okay.
There is the possibility. There's always going to be a possibility of error. I think it happened in California.
Yeah.
But just from the professionalism shown by CARE, that was reassuring enough for me.
Good.
I think Amy as well. Maybe Amy can confirm, but I was really reassured that everything would be done proper and the chance of mistake would be very, very small.
Okay, so your expectation as a couple going through treatment like this is that the clinic will take every step to mitigate the chance of a mistake happening. They want to lessen the risk all the time. Is that right?
Yeah,
Right.
I mean their reputation's on it, isn't it, as well?
Of course. Yeah.
But you'd hope that morally and ethically they're.
Okay. So at the outset, then you didn't have any concerns. You had a slight, not concern, but a thought that you dismissed because there was an Asian couple in the ward with you at the time.
Yeah.
But okay.
And that was based on me not knowing about this 20 years ago. I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah. No, I mean there have been in response to that incident 20 years ago, the regulator here, the Human Fertilisation and Embryology Authority, put very strict rules in place such that any point at which a mistake can be made in an IVF cycle, at absolutely any point, has to be witnessed.
Yes.
Did you know that?
No, not until you.
I didn't know that. No.
And actually, we never asked. It's interesting that we didn't, when we had our consultation, we never asked about that stuff.
Did you not?
I think if we'd had the conversation with you beforehand, the brief from you, Steve, and we would be more aware and perhaps ask more questions. We didn't ask those questions now.
So I suppose it begs the question as to whether clinics should be giving a little bit more information around, in terms of reassurance around what is done. Is that something that you think you might have liked?
Yeah, I think maybe even just a fact sheet or something would have been quite useful.
Okay.
Yeah, it certainly wouldn't do any harm, would it? I think it would, because if people aren't quite aware of what's going on, especially younger people, they perhaps won't remember the case 20 years ago, whereas I can. But it's probably a good thing if clinics did explain. We did go to an open day quite a while ago for the clinic we chose. Whether they mentioned that at that open day, I can't remember, but maybe it's something they did mention at that point about the checks.
Yeah, there's a lot of information to take in.
Yeah, there is really. It's where you listen, they're trying to listen and take in everything. It's sometimes you do miss things. So there's,
Or maybe they don't want to mention it because it could create anxiety.
Maybe.
Yes, that's true. But of course, you know, a lot of people will have seen that story that's broken this morning, and will now have concerns. You know, understandably so. But so in the UK now, to the best of my knowledge, 80% of the clinics in the UK now have an electronic witnessing system that sits in their labs, and it watches using either barcodes or radio frequency ID tags. You know, these tags that if you steal a pair of jeans from a shop, the alarm goes off. It's the same technology. And they use that to label every dish, every test tube. Some clinics give the patients a card with their details in, so that the whole of the process is electronically witnessed, in addition to the embryologists and nurses doing it as well. So I wondered, what the clinic that you have treatment at has got that system, but you didn't. I don't think you knew that was in place. I wonder, would you like to have known whether it was in place? Would it have made you feel better?
The fact you've told me that now is obviously extra reassurance. It's great. The environment that we experienced, I felt, was really calm.
Yeah.
Everybody was friendly, calm. Nothing would seem to be rushed at the time, so I was quite confident in that things were being done as they should be. Yeah, it is something. If that was explained to us, it would be extra reassurance, wouldn't it? I suppose. But I don't think during the process I was never concerned anyway. So it's not done any harm not being told that.
Sure.
But it would certainly wouldn't be. You know, it would be extra reassurance.
It's a shame in a way, and we've seen this a number of times, that it often takes an awful event to get clinics to sit up and listen. And it'll be interesting to see what happens in response to this case in California that's just come to light. You know, whether more clinics in the States now, perhaps, and elsewhere around the world, and indeed in the UK, install these systems.
I think it would have been useful to have known that, although I agree with Mark that it wasn't a particular concern. It was a nagging thought, but not a...
Yeah.
Oh, I do remember, because at one point they were saying we would have to have part of our treatment at another clinic because they didn't have all the resources they needed. And one of my questions in my email was, how do I know the embryos won't get lost in the system? So if they were being collected at one clinic and then frozen and brought to another.
Yeah.
I didn't get a response actually, but I didn't really follow it up because.
No, and again,
it didn't happen, did it?
No, but this is where, to try and answer your question, this is where these electronic systems come into their own. You know, you've got embryos in storage, haven't you? Yeah. You know, those embryos will be labelled with a barcode that is read electronically by the system and then links it inextricably to you guys. So, you know, again, you don't need to have concerns about that.
So would Mark's sperm have had the same barcode as?
Mark's, your sperm was linked to your eggs electronically from the outset.
Yeah.
One question that sometimes crops up around these electronic systems is data security. So you can imagine these little tags that are on the dishes and the tubes contain your information. Would it worry you that information was on these tags? And that this is a question that sometimes pops up.
It's a concern, but if the tags are going to exist, if that sort of protection is going to be there, then obviously our data needs to be on them. So it's just you sort of accept it, don't you? That's the way it has to be. If in this day and age with systems that electronic systems, our details need to be on the systems.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, you know, you can't do it any other way, can you?
Sure.
I presume they're destroyed after, you know, once you've left the clinic. That's the main.
Yeah.
They should be incinerated because they go into the clinical waste bin. but also my understanding is that the way that these tags work is that they can't be read by anything other than the system. They're completely encrypted.
Right, that's good to know. Yeah,
there shouldn't be a concern there.
I suppose I do wonder how it works with. So we had to sign some forms beforehand saying, you know, if there were embryos that weren't viable, could they be used for research? Would they? I wonder if they would unlink those from your barcode.
Yes, effectively, at the point where they get donated to research, they become anonymised in that sense.
Yeah.
So again, you wouldn't need to be concerned about that. So I think what I'm taking away from this is that you probably would have liked, now that you've thought about it a bit more, perhaps a little bit more information about what goes on behind the scenes from a reassurance point of view, particularly given what's popped up on the news today, and that you're reassured by what happens, certainly in this country, around the regulation regarding witnessing and the fact that we are allowed to have these electronic systems, and the majority of clinics have them installed. How would you feel about going to a clinic that didn't have an electronic system now that you know about them? Might it change your decision?
What would that be? Purely just how would the witnessing be done?
It would be done manually.
So it'd be like 2 people.
Exactly. Yeah.
I suppose that's what I thought happened anyway.
Yeah. And it does. It does in some parts of the treatment. That still happens.
I feel a bit mixed because sometimes I think technology can go wrong, can't it? And it's better to have 2 actual humans.
Yeah.
But then you can have human error as well. So
I think this, with this system in place for majority, you say the majority of clinics. I think if it was a clinic that didn't use the system, I'd be slightly concerned. Why aren't they using the system?
Right.
Is it a budget, a budget sort of issue? And it perhaps would lead me to sort of not be quite as confident with them. I don't know. It's
interesting.
If some clinics are using it, or the majority are, I would one not use it, or if that was explained, if they could explain to me why, the fact that they would prefer not to, and we do it this way, then fair enough. If that sort of reassured me, but just from saying it now, I would be thinking, why aren't they using it when the rest are? So obviously, a reason for it is it's obviously an extra measure, isn't it? So.
Is it an HGFA recommendation?
No, it's the HFEA allow either manual witnessing or electronic witnessing.
Okay.
You can do it either way, but as I say, that the electronic witnessing still requires some parts to be manually witnessed at the embryo transfer, for example. So you've still got humans in there. So my last question, I suppose, is so would you, if it had been on offer, would you have paid more to use an electronic system as a belt and braces?
If it's given, if it's put like that, I think probably we would have done. I think it depends how much extra cost it would be. If it was affordable for us, I think we definitely would have paid the extra as an extra security. I don't. That would be me. I don't know how to say.
What do you think?
I don't know. I'd probably want to know if there's some stats around it, like around
how well it works.
Is it more effective? Is it more efficient, or like error-wise?
Yeah, that's a really good question, actually, Amy. There are certainly data around the use of barcodes in the blood transfusion service as being as reducing the chance of risks. In terms of IVF, these are difficult data to get hold of. There have been practically no mix-ups in the UK since witnessing was required, nearly 20 years ago now. But there are still cases, mix-ups happening around the world. So
I guess ideally if you can have both, like, because I definitely got reassurance from when they were doing the transfer, and I heard someone read the number, and someone else read the number, and I felt quite reassuring. But then if you've obviously got the barcode system as well.
Well, it's the tag system actually. So in the background there, the tags were reading your dishes as they were brought in automatically. So you were getting a proper belt and braces approach there, which is cool. Okay.
Something definitely, I'd have to think more about it. I think it's going to raise a lot of questions for people that start in their treatment now.
Very possibly.
Having read that news story and everything.
Okay, well, look, I'll wrap it up there. Thank you so much for your your time, your honesty. The fact that you've got a touch of morning sickness is probably not helping, but that's a good thing, of course. So can I thank you on behalf of the conference, and also wish you the very best of luck for the next few months. So, certainly. Mark, Amy, thank you very much indeed for your time.
Thank you.
No problem. Thank you very much.